BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Jair Bolsonaro has yet to comment on his defeat in Sunday's presidential election in Brazil, fueling concerns that he may contest the outcome of the vote. He lost by the narrowest margin in Brazilian political history, just 2 million votes. Some of his camp say he will not be speaking until Tuesday. The BBC's Nick Miles in Rio de Janeiro says Mr. Bolsonaro has largely kept out of the public eye.
He was seen very briefly, but it wasn't very illuminating because he was in his motorcade as it left his official residence in Brasilia, sweeping past the waiting satellite trucks to go to one of his office buildings there, where apparently he's been holding meetings with ministers and aides. Meanwhile, more and more senior political allies of Mr. Bolsonaro, including his former Justice Minister, Sergio Moro, have been coming out recognising Jair Bolsonaro's defeat in the election.
President Putin has said Russia is suspending but not ending its participation in a deal that allows safe passage to vessels carrying Ukrainian grain exports. In a televised address, Mr. Putin called on Kiev to ensure the safety of maritime traffic. Moscow pulled out of the UN-brokered agreement on Saturday, alleging that Ukraine had used a safety corridor in the Black Sea to conduct a drone attack on its fleet.
Those
drones, both undersea and air drones, happen to be partly in the corridor through which the grain from Ukraine is exported. They created risks both for our ships, which should provide security for the grain export, and for civilian ships, which they're escorting. We committed to provide security, and if Ukraine hits those ships, we will be the ones who will be blamed.
The UN says there were no ships inside the corridor that night. President Volodymyr Zelensky has said Ukraine will continue to honour the deal. A number of cargo ships are currently in transit. A 42-year-old Californian man has been charged with attempting to kidnap the US House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. David DePape broke into her San Francisco home last week and attacked her husband. From Los Angeles, here's Sophie Long.
Federal prosecutors have charged the man accused of breaking into the Pelosi's home and battering Paul Pelosi with a hammer with attempting to kidnap Nancy Pelosi and assaulting the relative of a federal official. The authorities say when the suspect broke into the couple's home, he shouted, "Where is Nancy?" and was carrying a rope, a second hammer and zip ties. Such charges are normally dealt with by local authorities. Assault becomes a federal crime when there is intent to intimidate or interfere with the work of a federal official. David DePape also faces a list of state charges, including attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon.
World News from the BBC. President Biden says he has plans to seek tax penalties for oil companies unless they invest their record profits in lowering household costs and increasing production. Mr. Biden appealed to oil and gas firms to find ways to reduce prices for consumers. He said if oil companies did not lower prices at the pump, his administration would work with Congress to require them to pay higher taxes on their excess profits. Elon Musk has dissolved Twitter's board of directors, cementing his control over the company he's bought for $44 billion. He's reportedly considering a series of reforms to the platform, as Zoe Kleinman reports.
Elon Musk was always going to move fast once the deal, which he initially tried to get out of, went ahead. Now calling himself Chief Twit, he's mulling a whole host of changes to the way the platform operates. These include a moderation board to consider reinstating banned accounts and posts, a monthly fee to have a cherished blue tick signifying a verified account, and a round of job cuts. Mr. Musk is busy sharing ideas for his new business with his 112 million Twitter followers.
Britain's Interior Minister Suella Braverman has defended her hardline stance on combating illegal migration and her conduct as a minister in exchanges in Parliament. She said her Conservative Party was serious about stopping what she called an invasion, urging MPs to stop pretending that all arrivals were refugees in distress. She rejected accusations that she'd allowed a migrant holding centre in southeastern England to get dangerously overcrowded by blocking transfers to hotels. The leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed to observe earlier agreements that sought to end fighting between the two neighbours. A statement released after talks in Sochi said the two sides agreed to refrain from the use of force. BBC News.